All right, welcome back to the workshop and continuing on again with this VOX bass, and just again not sure how all of this video is gonna end up going together, but anyway, I'll figure all that out with the editing. And just wanted to show you something here, and then actually the focus of this video, I'm going to be doing a fret job for this guitar, and because the neck comes off, that makes that easier. But you can see over here I've got a little it's an ultrasonic cleaner, and down in there I've got the tuners from the guitar, and I've also got the bushings or ferrules, whatever you want to call those. And while I'm doing the frets, I'm just going to let those, I'm going to turn this on. I've put, just so you know, the mixture in there, I put a cup of really hot tap water. So not boiling or anything, but just, you know, turn the hot water on, let it get nice and hot. And then just a little bit of simple green. And that's what I'm using there. This one is just a really simple, you'll be able to hear it running there. That's the vibration mode, but it's just a simple thing. You push the button, it runs for 5 minutes and then shuts itself off. So I'll hit that probably several times as we're going through, and then when those are done, I'll just pull them out, let them sit on a towel and get nice and dry before we do anything with them. So let me reposition camera here while that's going on, and zoom back out as much as I can here. There we go. Kind of give you a good angle of what I'm doing here. Again, I've already shown the finish, so I'm moving on to doing the frets, and I'm just, I think, gonna let you can kind of see, you know, I got a mess everywhere, but that's what happens. Again, I've said that several times through these videos, that's what happens when you work. But I'm just gonna let that camera run, and I'll probably time lapse some of this because it takes a little while to do this. But here's what I've got, my setup, and I've showed this before, but I'm going to show you again because I've got with the other ones I was using an orange marker, and I don't think you could see it very well. I showed in the introductory video there's unevenness. These frets are not level, so that's why I'm doing a fret job on it. I want to be able to get a good setup. I will have to deal with the 0 fret, but I'm going to deal with that later because that's got to be filed down for the string action. So I'll explain all that when I actually get to the setup part of the guitar. So I measured this. It's 7.25. I've got my radius block all ready to go. I've explained this to you as well. I put masking tape, this is just blue painter's tape, on the bottom side of the block, and then I super glue and I'm using 320 grit sandpaper, and I super glue that to the tape, and that way when I need to change the sandpaper, I just peel the tape off, all of that comes off, and don't mess up the radius block. But it is a 7.25, fits that really nicely. I've taken time and I've gotten this as flat as I can. Again, this being a bolt-on neck, it makes that a little easier to deal with doing the frets because I don't have to, you know, it's not on the guitar. So again, we don't use a lot of, there's not a lot of downward pressure in this anyway. So that's it. And then I'm going to do my typical finish. I've got some 600 sandpaper, and then my semi-chrome polish, and yeah, that's it. So the first thing in doing frets is take the magic marker. Again, in this case, I'm doing blue, and I'll color all of the frets, and then what that allows, let me go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, got all the frets colored blue, and the reason for doing that is it gives us a visual, gives me a visual reference as I'm sanding, so that I know if I'm seeing bits and pieces of blue, then I still need to sand a little bit more to get the frets level. Because what we want to end up with is from this point to this point, we want all of these frets to be level. The other tool I haven't pulled out yet, but is my crowning file, and I'm going to use that to put the crown back in. And I've seen over the years where people will do this part, they'll level the frets and they don't re-crown, and that's an important part as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, again, this is 320. I don't like to go rougher than that unless I absolutely have to, and if the frets are really bad, sometimes you have to go to like a 220, but typically 320 works well. So I'm going to hit this just a few times and just kind of see, and I may, once I hit this a few times and start seeing where some of the variations in the frets are, I might grab your handheld and let you see it. Again, no downward pressure. Alright, so that might be a good spot to bring you handheld and just kind of let you see. So bear with me. I'll try not to bounce you too much, but I'll give you a close-up so you can see where the sandpaper has hit the top of the frets, and then where, you know, there's blue magic marker down in here, so you can see the parts that this one, so you can see this fret is quite a bit lower than the others. Down in here, we're a little bit lower because there's less of the blue. And then you can see also where the strings have kind of dug in over the years. And sorry, I got the bright shop lights, but you can see the string grooves. So this will clean all of that up and make the frets really nice. Get you back on the tripod. Try to do that nice and easy. And all right, I'm just going to go at this a little bit until all of the magic marker is gone. All right, I think I'm going to call that good enough. And I know it looked like I was sanding a lot, but again, it's 320 sandpaper, which is not very rough anyway. It's not like we're using 80 grit or, you know, 120 or something that's really, really rough. So it's a light grit sandpaper anyway, especially on metal. But you can see now, hopefully you can see now, all of the blue is gone. So I know it looked like I was sanding a lot, but that it really did not take off much material at all, not in the least. Now I don't know if I can show you, but yeah, I think you can kind of see it there. See how flat the tops of the frets are? So what we've done, and some are flatter than others because they needed to be filed more and others less, but that flatness is what gives us our level. So let's say if I take a straight edge and put on here now, and from one end to the other, we are perfectly level. So as I re-crown the frets, I'm going to color them blue one more time, and then I'm going to use the crowning file to put, let's see, can you see? Yeah, you can see the shape there of the crown of the fret. What that does is it narrows the flat spot, so it kind of gives it this dome shape. But we don't want to lose the flat spot. So if I filed too much, I lose the flat spot, and then they're not level anymore. So the coloring with the magic marker again gives me a visual reference. As I'm filing, I leave just the tiniest sliver of the magic marker, and then I know that I've maintained my level. But what the crown does is it helps the fret to wear better, and to not wear out as fast, because there's not as much of a flat spot for the string to dig into. So if that makes sense to you, that's the purpose of the crown, is just to kind of help things, and it helps as you're playing. Probably not so much on a bass, but especially on a guitar, if you an electric guitar player and you bend strings and all of that, it just helps with the playability of the instrument as well. So, all right, let me grab the magic marker again, get a brush real quick. And again, this whole process does make a little bit of a mess. So brush that off, and then I'm going to color these blue one more time. Okay, so there is the blue one more time. And again, that just gives me a visual reference as I'm filing. So here's the next process is I file. This is a diamond fret crowning file. So that will put the crown back in, and this does a really good job. It's pretty quick. And then what I do is I take 600 grit sandpaper and go over, take the file marks out, and then I finish up polishing with the semi-chrome. This is the Hapich semi-chrome polish, and this one's almost gone, so I've ordered a new one there. But let me do one of these, and I may bring you handheld again, let you see that thin strip. So I'll just pick one. Doesn't really matter. And again, it doesn't take long with the file. A little more on that side than the other side. All right, I think that'll give you a good close-up, because that's about all that I'm going to do on that particular fret. So handheld, here we go again. And you can see the flat spot there, colored blue. Again, that's the magic marker all across the flat spot. And then this is the one that's been filed. And you can see the thin, and I'm zoomed way in, that's a pretty thin line there. So that's what I'm going for, is just that thin, super thin line just right on the top. And what that'll do, keep that thin line across all the frets, and then they stay level. So I'm going to put you back in the tripod, and then I'll probably do this part, just bust it into time lapse and all of that, because it takes a little while to go down all the frets. But you saw that one, and how quick, really, it does. I mean, I say it takes time just because there's a number of frets to do, but it's not difficult, and it's not like it takes hours and hours. But I will bust it into time lapse just so we're not wasting all the video time. So I just wanted to show you that part with leaving that little sliver of the flat spot on each one of these. So I'm going to make them all look like that, and I'll be back with you when I'm done with that little part. Okay, that's all the filing that needs to be done. And now I just take, for this next part, I just take some 600 grit sandpaper, and I just cut off some pieces, and then I just kind of, you can go, any direction. I usually go both directions. What the 600 does is it does a really good job of taking out, I don't know the exact grit of the diamond file. I just don't remember. But this is the reason I put there's a couple of reasons for putting the tape on. One is when I'm marking with the marker, so I don't get the color on the fretboard at all. And then the other is with the 600, you're not sanding the fretboard. So the 600, you can tell when you can just tell by looking. The bright shop light, I know I say that a lot, but this bright shop light really helps. I kind of like to go, but anyway, the bright shop light lets you see when the file marks are gone. So a good shop light is a necessity, in my opinion, in a workshop. But going both directions, you go this way, and it really helps you get a visual of when the file marks are gone. You can see the 600 gets used up pretty quickly, so you got to change, flip it around, and all of that. Again, we're going to polish the frets up so they look nice. So I just take a few pieces of the 600. That's kind of the process. So again, I'm probably going to kick this part into time lapse because not really exciting video watching a piece of sandpaper go back and forth. So. All right, let me bring a handheld. I got all the way down to 600, and you can see they're relatively shiny and nice looking already. But what I like to do is on the top of that, I take the semi-chrome polish, that's the Hapich semi-chrome, and I hit each one of the frets, and it just makes it look like mirror finish. So let me do a few of those, and I'll bring a handheld again, let you take a look. And what I use for that is I just have a bunch of these just pieces of it's an old towel that's just cut up into pieces, and then I just put a little bit of the polish on there. And in this case, because I don't have the drill and all of that here in the workshop, I left that out in the garage from after my polishing. I'm just going to do this a little bit by hand. What I do is I just take a little bit of the polish and kind of put a little dab. Oh, that's way too much. Try to spread that out a little bit. Spread the love, right? There we go. So that little bit, it doesn't take much with the polish. It does have a tiny amount of an abrasive in there, but you saw me in the other video. This is what I used to actually polish the body of the guitar and the headstock and all of that. So it's let me just do these real quick, and I'll show you, and then I'm gonna just do the rest of them. But I just put a little bit on there like that, and when you're doing it by hand, it's just good old-fashioned elbow grease, and then flip, move to a different spot on the towel. Again, not anything real difficult. It does take just a little bit of time when you're doing it by hand. What I've done in the past, and I've done it several times now, I saw somebody on YouTube who took one of the buffing pads that's made for the drill and used that down here, especially with it being taped off. And I've done that several times, and it works really well, and it's quite a bit faster. But this gets the job done too, and it really doesn't take that long. All right, a couple more, and I'm gonna give you a close-up view of the ones that are polished compared to the ones that are not. All right, let me bring you handheld. And from here to here, I've polished. And then from here up, I haven't. So hopefully you can see the difference there. Oh yeah, if I tilt it a little bit, or get you at a different, there you go. That's a good shot of it. So you can see the 600 doesn't look bad, but when you get to the ones that have been polished, see how much better they look. It just gets that real reflective mirror-like finish. So I just like to do that if I'm doing a fret job. It just finishes it up, makes it look nice. So I think at this point I'm going to pause the video and finish the polishing, and then get the tape off here. And then I'll bring you back when we're ready to pull the tuners out of here and get those ready, because they need to go back into the headstock. We got to start getting this thing back together. So give me a little bit and I'll be back with you. All right, let me bring you back in. It's been just a few minutes. I've put, or I've taken the tuners out. Let me just show you if I can. There we go. Taking the tuners out of the ultrasonic cleaner, cleaned them up, polished them and all that. They look pretty good. What I want to try to do here is got all the tape off. I put a little more oil on the fretboard and all, just to kind of clean things up. I want to get the neck finished, and I'm in kind of the home stretch here, and just kind of wanted to maybe bring you along for some of this. I've gone through and taken a toothpick, cleaned out some of the junk out of the holes and all of that. I'm going to put the letters back in. So let me find those. There we go. And I just take, and I use lighter fluid a lot for cleaning, and it's pretty safe for different, it doesn't hurt finishes and stuff like that, and it really does a good job of taking, just dirt and grime, all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to wipe these letters down. I'm not going to buff them or polish them or anything. Again, we're trying to keep the as much of the, I guess, patina, if you want to call it that, the old look and feel of the guitar. So you can just see some of the dirt and stuff that comes off of there. So I'm just going to wipe them down a little bit, and that is good enough there. And these holes were pre-drilled, and these just kind of lifted out of here. So shouldn't be any kind of problem or anything getting them back in. If I can't do it by hand, I've got these vice grips that I've put leather in there, and but That one went back in. I just pushed it in, no problem. That one almost might, yeah, they're not quite seated, so could do a couple of different things. I might use the mallet, give them a little tap, see how, oop, that's not the mallet, that's a hammer, don't want that. So maybe use a soft see how that does. Oh yeah, that worked out really nice. See that? Back together there. No problem there. And you can see this. See how the oil is kind of weeping? The linseed oil kind of does that when you put it on here. It's not a big deal. When it does that, you just take a towel, a little paper towel is all I do, and just wipe it. No problem. No problem at all. So it'll do that a little bit as, you know, it's kind of soaking in and doing its thing there. So yeah, we didn't need that at all for those. Not sure. I'm going to go ahead and try to reassemble and get the tuners installed, and I don't know if we'll have to press these in or not. Kind of feels like we might need to. Yeah, we're going to need to. I'm going to go ahead and start them by hand. And then let's see. I think should be able to. Can I do this without blocking you? Maybe. Might have to adjust them a little bit. Yeah. So let me close them just a tad. And should be able to press those right into place. And again, it's got, these have, I put leather, pieces of leather. Can you see that? On both sides. So there's one of those pressed in. We'll go ahead and do these others really quickly here. So just that couple of minutes there, and we're in good shape. All right, again, let me show you that. See a little more of the linseed kind of weeping its way. So I'll just keep an eye on, if it keeps doing that, I just keep rubbing it off. No problem. Just like that, and that'll be good. Let me find the other thing I want to put on the front are the string trees, and I've got screwdriver, and let's see, there's two different sizes. Can you see two different size posts? The larger post, if I'm not mistaken, the larger post was on the base side, which kind of makes sense because you don't need to pull those strings down nearly as much. So let's see, go ahead and now these holes I did fill, but we should just be able to go right back down in there. And again, just snug, right? Because we're not working on a car, we're not putting lug nuts, you know, on your tire. So everything is just nice and snug. Don't want to over tighten and break anything. Oop, slipped there with a screwdriver, but it didn't make a mark. So that would have been unfortunate at this stage of the game. So let's be a little more careful with that. Trying to talk to you and instead of thinking about what I'm doing here. A bit more. Again, just snug. So if I needed to, I could turn the string trees by hand, but they won't turn on their own. Okay, so all right, there's that. I really saturated normally it doesn't weep out this much, but I really saturated because I had no idea when the last time this thing had a drink was. So I really saturated it. All right, let me show you one of these tuners together. Again, the ultrasonic cleaner worked really well for cleaning that up. I did take a little bit of the semi-chrome polish and buff them a little bit. So they turned out really nice. I also threw the saddle in the ultrasonic cleaner, and that cleaned up really nice. That turned out great. But let me show you on one of these, and then I'm going to pause, put the rest of them together. And they have the open gear tuners, open back, open gear, whatever you want to call them. And let's see, the post goes through, and you got to get the gear on the correct way. Can you see? That's the back side, that's the top side. So that goes, and it's a little easier if you put the gear in first and let it kind of locate itself. Can you see that? And then this guy, this one just happens to be square, and we'll match it, and it goes right in like that. Hopefully I'm keeping you in the camera here. And then there's a screw that goes in like so. And get in there. And again, you want it snug, not over tight. You do want to be able to turn these. You want them to turn nice and smooth, and that feels really good. So there's one. I'm going to do the other three and flip the headstock over, and I'll bring you back in when I get ready to put the tuners back on. Okay, there's just a couple of minutes there, and I was able to get the tuners all reassembled and back into the headstock. And I did, let me just pull that out really quickly. Something to point with. You can see here where the other holes were. I did fill those, and then I also did some lacquer fill around because some finish had chipped and all that. But again, just to even things out so you don't see when the tuners are in, it looks nice. You don't see a bunch of cracks and all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm just going to look down through here, line up these holes. And again, the toothpick, I don't have to pre-drill because the toothpicks are soft. So what I'll do, I've got that screw started. I'm going to start them all before, that's just a good rule of thumb. Start all of your screws before you go and tighten them. And that way, if you have an issue of things being lined up and all of that, you don't have to worry about loosening things, taking things back apart. All right, so that's kind of the drill there. I'll show you one. And again, snug, not over tight. Just snug. So there's one. The others will line up in a row there, and they'll be good. So that's a nice, snug, firm fit. So let me go ahead and I'll get the rest of the screws in here, and then I will bring you back, give you one final look of the finished neck, and from that point it'll just have to go on the guitar. So I'm going to pause you for a bit and I'll be right back. Okay, back with you. I thought I'd give you another shot, or a final shot, of the neck. Again, this is the adjustment for the truss rod here. The fretboard has been all cleaned. The frets, you watched me do that. So everything looks really good up and down through there. We'll still have a little bit of work to do on this 0 fret, but that'll be in another segment. Got all of the letters back on the headstock there, and the tuners are back in. Everything looks really nice. And all right, so that's hopefully the last time we have to do anything with the neck until it's ready to go on the guitar. So all right, I just wanted to show you, give you that little bit of an update and show you that with everything put back together. And I'm going to move on next over to the body of the guitar and get that in as good a shape as we can, and then we'll marry the two and do a setup and all that kind of good stuff. So all right, just a little quick update there to close out this segment, and I'll catch you next time in the workshop.